I've experimented with many different types of diets and eating styles. I've pretty much been a vegan for the past 10 years, speckled in with some raw food veganism and vegetarianism and even meat eating. I lost my way a few times during this last decade. But now I am a raw foodist, and I am essentially 99% raw at the moment, and loving it. So I wanted to take this time to talk a little bit about why veganism. And let me just warn all of you who are listening to this that this will be pretty proselytizing, pretty preachy. So with that in mind, let's continue. So the first thing is, how do you define meat? How do you define meat and dairy products? For some of you, I say steak, and your mouth salivates. You're like, oh, can I get some? And for others, I say steak, and you see it there sizzling on the grill, and you want to vomit. You can't think of anything more disgusting, more horrendous, more atrocious. So I want to begin our conversation with this very important point. And that is that the way that we define our food is oftentimes the way that we're going to feel about it, right? I'm sure you eat some pretty disgusting things. At least some people would think. But the point is that the difference between you and those people who don't eat it is that you might define what they think as disgusting as really good, delicious even. I'm a food mixer. In my life, I've mixed crazy combinations, and to me, it's all great. Come on, pickles and ice cream, let's go. But some people don't define that as very good. They want everything separate, nice, and clean. You know, I love Indian food. Let's just have a feast. Okay, so anyways, how we define things is the first and foremost point. Because for a lot of you out there who might want to become a vegan or a vegetarian, but can't transition to becoming it, well, what I'd really help you work on is redefining meat. Redefining those foods in your life which you want to cut out of your life. Because if you continue to define them as delicious and good, then, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to keep your resolve very long not eating them, right? That's like a dog. When you train it, you make it sit and you put a little treat in front of it. Well, I mean, you know, it can hold out for a certain period of time, but then either one of two things are going to happen. It's going to start hating those treats. It'll never want one again. Or it's going to break and it's going to go for it, right? And we're kind of the same way. We might have a little bit more resolution than a dog, but look, at the end of the day, we're human. Okay, so moving on in terms of like the meat industry. Well, the meat industry is basically a structure of terror, hierarchy, and superiority. Food is something that's been extremely important in our culture. In all cultures, we gather around food. We eat to celebrate. We eat to socialize. And cutting certain things out of your diet might mean the difference between being able to hang out with your friends and not. I mean, come on, I don't drink, so the very idea of going to a bar and getting drunk sounds really unappetizing to me, right? And if it sounded unappetizing to you too, well, maybe you'd lose some of those friends. Or maybe not lose them, but lose opportunities to hang out with them. But this is a whole different story, and one that's deep too, but not what we're going to talk about right now. So food's important, right? But it also sets up these different hierarchy chains and chains of superiority, which I might get a little bit more into later. We're not going to make this very long. Next, what I want to say, and by the way, I'm taking a lot of these points off a recent CD that I listened to by Will Tuttle on why to become a vegan. Basically, Pythagoras and Buddha, and a lot of the spiritual masters throughout time have been vegans or vegetarians or have promoted vegan or vegetarian diets. I mean, Pythagoras said himself, so long as men eat meat, they will continue to kill each other. And I want to bring up a really important point about this. And when someone says that, like, oh, I don't want to be a vegan or I don't want to be a vegetarian, like, and they make up all sorts of excuses why not, I don't think to myself, oh, I must change them. I must save the world. I don't think that at all. I just think that they're stupid. And that's really one of the point, is that eating this way reduces your intelligence. I mean, as a bottom line fact, the things that you're eating are probably affecting your real IQ score by affecting your brain. I mean, like, look, come on, if you're eating fish, you're probably loaded with heavy metals and mercury, which is now like quicksilver in your brain, just literally deleting brain cells like a backspace key in Microsoft Word. But besides that, you're decreasing your overall intelligence, because intelligence is our ability to survive and get along and communicate and cooperate with the systems that we're involved in. And the system that we're involved in is the rest of humanity and planet Earth. And nothing, in my mind, is more destructive than the meat industry on all of planet Earth and our relationships to one another. I mean, look, if someone smokes, right, we don't think necessarily that, oh, like, this is so bad, and moralize it. No, they're just stupid because they're ruining their lungs for a small gain. I mean, come on, if they really want the nicotine, they should get a nicotine patch. You get a good benefit there. So I don't have much time, so I'm going to move quickly through some of the rest of this stuff. So to go on further with that, we're basically reducing our happiness, right? Because happiness, part of it comes from the ability to be coherent. And if we're incoherent, because if our brains are telling us one thing and our hearts are telling us another, I mean, how many people would actually hunt an animal, kill it, and eat it? Almost no one. Yet every time we buy a steak, every time we buy dairy products, every time we buy eggs, we're essentially doing that, but we're covering it up in the process. Right? It's pretty disgusting. And a lot of atrocities in human history have occurred this way. Basically, removing the product from its manufacturing process, the product from the process. And a lot of atrocities have been committed. I mean, look, all the Holocaust was committed this way. Having different levels of bureaucracy, one person presses a button that leads another person to press a button, that leads another person to press a button, and basically get to diffuse their responsibility. So no one really gets to be blamed. Well, that's not true, because the thing is, by supporting these systems, we end up, we're supporting them. That's the bottom line. You give a penny to it, and you're supporting it. You take your penny away, and you're not supporting it anymore, right? And in the large sense, this is, okay, helping animals, helping the planet, but again, for health, it's also helping ourselves, because there are a lot of myths of nutrition that get toted around, and all you need to read is this little thing called the China study by Dr. Campbell. Essentially, by removing all animal products from our diet, we delete the presence of IGF-1 in our system, which means no more cancer. You could turn off and on your cancer genes literally by eating dairy and meat products and egg products, animal products, versus not. Now, if you're a bodybuilder, you're not going to want to hear that, because that means, oh no, you can never be a vegan or a vegetarian. Well, it's not true. You can get IGF-1 other ways, right? Deer antler, for example, is a way to get IGF-1. There are also other ways too, which causes growth, a lot of growth, which is okay, fine. If you want to be a bodybuilder and go that way, I'm not going to say one or two things about it. But the point that I want to make is that often people will quit the vegan vegetarian diet because they feel like, oh, I'm not getting enough protein, or, oh, I'm not getting full nutrition, or, oh, it's not healthy. Well, let me tell you what. You could be eating a meat, animal-based diet that's also not healthy. I mean, how many people do you know that eat the standard, sad American diet and aren't healthy? A lot. And there are also vegans and vegetarians that aren't healthy. Of course there are, right? Either because they're so stressed out that they're getting diseases that way, or either because they eat potato chips. Look, potato chips can be vegan. You can eat that for your entire diet, even popcorn with a little oil, but you're not going to get healthy doing it, right? You can still become diabetic, and you can still develop diseases, and you can still be unhealthy. The point is just that it's possible. The point is that you can be a bodybuilder and be a raw food vegan. I've seen them. I've met them. They exist. And it's not even that difficult. In fact, it's a lot healthier for your body. I gained 40 pounds of muscle over the summer being a vegan. I wasn't totally raw. I was around 70% raw, but I was 100% healthy, right? Nothing going on. And now, I'm still exercising, and I've got even more endurance than I did then, and I'm 100% raw, and everything is going right. So I just want to make that point really clear, okay, that anyone who tells you that you need to eat animal products is just flat out wrong. That's like someone telling you that you need to buy a red car and not a white car. Okay, it's a preference thing, and sometimes it's a little bit more convenient to eat animal products than it is to eat vegan, vegetarian food because, there aren't very many vegan, vegetarian restaurants, although they're popping up all over the place. And it's also hard, if you want more variety in your diet, and you start resorting to things like soy and tofu, which are not good for you. You want to avoid, right? So it can be a little bบmore complicated, but hey, as long as you're sprouting your nuts and seeds, buying organic, and eating a lot of greens, and getting Sun Warrior protein powder or, raw protein powder, you're totally good. I mean, that's it. That's what I live off of, and I'm extremely healthy. Everyone around me has been getting sick right now, and I'm totally fine. No sick. No, I haven't been sick once in almost 7 months now, and I used to get sick literally a few times a week before I went on this diet. Now, don't get me wrong here. I do believe in supplementation, very much so, but I believe in that whether or not you're a meat eater or a vegetarian or a vegan or a raw food vegan or a breatharian. Because the thing is, we don't get enough from our food regardless. So all these points are important and they all link together. Hold on one sec. Okay, so that myth's over. But now let's take things back one step. And basically, there are a lot of arguments made about, human beings are carnivores, right? We're meant to eat meat. We're meant to hunt. By all these people who have a lot of bravado, right? But the one thing that I find really funny about these hunter, macho, testosterone-driven guys who think that they need to eat meat 24 hours a day, right? I think of specifically these paleo guys who are like, yeah, we just hunt animals, and all we do is eat meat. I'm eating meat 24 hours, 24/7. I eat meat while I sleep. Right, is that if they really were meat eaters, then, if they saw like a cat walking down the street, they would feel totally inspired to jump on it, rip its throat out with their bare teeth, feel the hot blood gushing into their mouth as they eat up all its muscles. Yum! Doesn't that sound great? And like another dog, they go over to someone's house and they wouldn't even be able to contain themselves. Their dogs would look so delicious. The cats would look so delicious. The birds, oh my God, they would eat it all. Or at the very least, if they wanted to save, pets as pets, if they saw a deer running by, their mouths would salivate. They would think, oh, yeah, I eat meat all the time. There's some meat. It's fresh, too. It's about as fresh and wild as it gets. This is perfect. Definitely not processed stuff. And they'd leap and they'd catch it, which is also another joke, because how the hell would they catch it in the first place? But they would catch it, and they would, again, sink their teeth into its pumping arteries and feel all that blood rush into their mouth, drinking it up, just tearing it apart limb by limb and just licking up all that meat raw. Oh, perfect. Disgusting. I can't think of anything worse than that, right? So then the next point that I want to make is just how big of a contributor to global warming and environmental issues the whole meat industry is. I mean, I could go on forever about this, but let's just draw a bottom line. The largest contributor of global warming is the meat industry. If you look at it from the bottom up, I mean, look, people driving, transporting meat all across the world, okay? Also, the production of methane from these animals, basically ruminating and chewing their cud as well as farting all day long. And even worse than that, in my opinion, because it's more disgusting, is the waste products, right? These waste products come out and they go into our groundwater. And then they go also into our oceans, and they totally pollute our oceans, and they literally make those oceans sterile. And factory fishing, like fish farming, oh my God, it's even worse. They have lice, sea lice all over them. They're fed with these antibiotics, and they're fed other fish pellets, so they get sick. And and they even have to change the color and dye the meat of these fish because they're gray. They're not pink. If you think you're eating pink salmon, you're wrong. It's gray and gross. Gray for gross. We can talk about each one individually. It's all bad. There's nothing appetizing or good about the entire industry. Nothing at all, right? And then some people will say, oh, okay, well, I won't eat meat. But I'll eat the dairy cow. I'll eat dairy. Dairy's okay. But dairy's even worse. I mean, look at how these dairy cows are treated, okay? First, they're raped. They're put up on something called a rape rack, okay? And these animals are very intelligent, okay? We put them down and we criticize them. We say that they're not intelligent. Why? To justify our actions. Obviously, if we thought that they had their own emotional and spiritual lives, we wouldn't be eating them. We would think we would respect them more. But the fact of the matter is we have to suppress that in order to basically eat part of their flesh for fun. Hold on one sec.